Welcome back, Pumpkin Valley. She's Fulyana Osborne and this is Inside Exec. And this is actually Inside Exec at 150. So today we mark our 150th episode and Fulyana and I are just going to spend some time reflecting on how we have managed to put up with one another for 150 sessions of recording with technology. Those of you who know Fulyana will know that this has been a challenge for me, but we've made it this far and we are going to continue. So I will let herself speak because every now and then she has to go first. I get the last word.
Well, I certainly learned a lot about technology. I think the reason we survived this long is because neither of us like to talk very much.
Some of us don't get the chance.
Kim will share with us some of the numbers today for those of you who are number focused. So as Kim said, we had 150 episodes.
2,476 listeners. Of those, about 2,200 are regular listeners. And in that time we've just tipped the 20 mark for guest appearances on the show in the midst of our international series, so we've still got a few more to go on that side of things.
What I thought I'll share with you, those of you who would listen to this, and which is our regular listeners, of course, are going to recognize some of what they said to me in this summary of feedback. So far, the listeners have been saying the topics are very relevant. They have been and they continue to be, and they're very happy with the selection of topics covered. They love the way the guests share their actual experience, which is learnt on their job and it's real life, not just a theory. The other thing is they want us to share more. You guys have asked, can you please share it more on LinkedIn and Facebook and other social media? Even though you go in, and that's proven by the stats, and look at our site, you're saying it's easier for you to share it with others as well as a prompt when you're too busy. So I think I will continue to attempt to do that given my technical and I think Kim might be able to share even more and we'll improve as we go.
Kim is going to let Fulyana take on the challenge of social media.
Oh dear, I think we're all in trouble now, but I will give myself the challenge and I will do, and I will be calling on some of my more learned friends to help me through that one. And the other thing is to keep up the variety of the topics and backgrounds and the guests. The other thing is they said, I don't really want to admit to this, but they like the banter between Kim and I really don't want to encourage her because she really does take it to the limit. Anyway, and she's laughing now.
She can get a word in.
Yes, I'm trying to talk really fast, as you can see, so she can't. Seriously, apparently the length of each segment or each episode is just right for our listeners, because most of them listen at different times, whether it's cooking, gardening, in the car or at the gym or whatever, and seem to be just right. Okay, for those of you who listened to one of the banters about Kim trying to do some advertising about talking in public, thank you everyone for pulling me down. You said to me you actually like talking in public, and you brought to my attention something to my shame I hadn't seen, and that is her own website, which talk about it and gave you tips, and you'll love that. So, okay, I'll put my head back in and I will allow Kim to talk about that particular topic on our episodes.
She won't.
Like them
she
so
won't.
Much.
You know she won't.
I will, because I do believe in it.
This is the moment where she's acknowledged that I got the last word, even though she tried desperately to have the last word.
Well, guess what? For once, I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh, this is worrying. This is not going to end well. It's going to end in tears, I can see. I think in all of that, what we really do appreciate is the fact, first of all, that you take the time to give us feedback. Because, as you can imagine, it's a little bit insular doing these things when it's just one out, one talking to the other, or we've got a guest in that we're talking to them. And it is very important for us to know that what we're getting from the guests or what we're talking about ourselves is of use to you. As you know, we started the podcast thinking that we had something that we had learned over our years in the workforce that would be worthwhile for people to hear and people to understand, people to take what they wanted from our experience. And we wanted to keep it practical, we wanted to keep it purposeful, and we're pleased to hear that you are feeling that that's coming across.
I'm actually making the sound that I actually finished because Kim need to have the last word.
If only it were video, I could maintain that little frame and use it on every video. What we will talk about, though, is going forward. So we're at 150 episodes. We have made a commitment to continue this because of the feedback we're getting, because we know that it is of interest and use to you that are listening. I guess for my part, the feedback that I've had has been interesting in terms of the guests that we've had, and that the guests that I've interacted with after they've been on the show are ones that have said, oh, we're listening now. We only heard one or two before because we were preparing ourselves for when we were coming on, but now we're listening all the time because it's really good. It's really interesting. And so for me, that's interesting in how we are actually obtaining our audience and how that message is coming across, and that people are open to learning from one another regardless of the industry, regardless of the position, regardless of what they're talking about. There is always something that is of use in each of the episodes that we've been putting to air. So as I said, moving forward, there has been some requests for written versions of the podcasts, and we'll look into having the transcripts done so that they'll be available for you to download as well. When we'll go back in history, we'll have it done for all of them. That will take a period of time, but increasingly the transcripts will be available for each of the episodes that we have done up to this point, and then as we start to do episodes, once we've got those historical ones in place, the transcript will be available at the time that the podcast goes live. So you'll have that opportunity. We will endeavour, I've made a commitment. You heard me all talk about it some time back, and we did have a couple of sessions where we thought, well, we might video this one. We will move into doing some video. We won't do a whole lot of video because we know that you consume this information in the podcast format, and that's what you're happy with doing. But every now and then we will throw a video together. She's nodding her head because she knows that it's not going to be too often. But I think it's important for you to connect with us in that way as well. The podcast that we've already put to air, we will also start to have available through YouTube, because that also is a way for people to gather that information without having to be signed up for subscriptions or going back to the website or looking for it on LinkedIn. So just another way that we will be distributing the podcasts for you. Again, it'll always still be free, but just another way that you can access it if you've not got your links or the connections set up the way you want them to. If you've got other areas, social media or industry areas that you think it might be worthwhile for us to distribute through, just let us know those things, because we're always happy to spread the voice far and wide in whatever we're doing. I think for me, what's come out of the 150 episodes is that I have been able, it's going to sound soft soap, but it's been really good for me to be able to reconnect with Fulyana, to talk about the things that we learnt in our experience, to recognise the things that we learnt out of our working time, and to know that we have that information to share and that it's still relevant, that we're still relevant. And it's always a challenge for me each time we do recordings to think of what we're going to talk about, to come up with the ideas, the questions and the topics. And I guess I would like to see a little bit more in the case study field. So if you've got a case study, if you've got something that's particularly worrying you, or you have thought about it and you don't know how you'd handle if it did come up, then we would be interested in talking about those, because the case studies, hard for us to think of a case study because we're a little bit removed from day-to-day management in some ways these days. So if you've got case studies that you would like us to consider, please let us know those as well.
I just want to say thank you very much for listening and communicating with us about all of this, the feedback. Also, a lot of the material that we've got here is really by request in a general sense. So please keep that up, as Kim said. That would be great.
Given that we should talk about something that is useful to you, perhaps we should not just make this the Talk About Us podcast, but talk about it in terms of our management of the process. So we do a recording. In essence, this is for you to think about in terms of time management for a particular project, regardless of what it is. So perhaps you've got an idea of something that you'd like to record, you'd like to think about. We've heard a few of our guests talk about how they always knew they had a book in them. So maybe you've got a book that you want to write. In terms of management of this process, we set dates for a 12-month period of when we're going to have recording days. And on those days, we find that we can comfortably manage 3-4 episodes of recording. After that raw recording is done, I take it away and I do the editing. And I do the editing in a session where I just simply listen to the podcast. I take out the things that I don't think are relevant in terms of speech patterns. So not any information. The information doesn't get taken out, only the speech pattern anomalies, shall we say.
Like all my ums and ahs.
Those sorts of things, just so it's a more pleasant listening experience for you. So we're thinking about our customer at the time that we're doing it. Once the podcast is edited, I'll make sure that we've got the beginning and ending music. So some of you have been interested in that music. We had it written for us by a wonderful, wonderful composer who is available on Fiverr. So I think it didn't cost very much at all. It's unique to us. So if you hear it anywhere else, you better let us know. But yes, he was a fabulous composer in England. And that's a site that's fiverr.com if you haven't used it. Absolutely anything and everything in the creative field you can buy there for as little as $5, which is why the name of the site is like that. So that's the music. So make sure the beginning and ending music is put onto the recording, upload it, write the little blurb that goes with the post on the website, and then we have automatic software that takes it from there and spreads it out to the places that distribute it, like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play now as well. So that's the process for us. It's a process that's worked for 150 episodes. If we have times where we need to change our recording dates and things, or as you know, sometimes one or other of us gets called away, and so the individual will do the recording, still follow the same process, and we just do another recording so you can have 2 lots of comments or thoughts on that particular topic. So that's our framework for doing podcasts for those of you that are interested. She's got nothing more to say. Yes. Isn't that amazing? This 150 episode marks the first time Fulyana has nothing left to say.
Not for long.
Not for long. Not for long.
Not for long.
So with that, we thank you. We both thank you most sincerely for your continued support of the podcast, and we will talk to you in the next one. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec.